Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is How Was Your Race? Today we have on Gavin. Gavin is a friend of mine. We have ran together in several races. Gavin has ran 21 half marathons, putting him in the veteran category. Together we have ran Derby marathon, Derby half marathon, Go St. Louis, several different versions of the hot chocolate race series, and the Urban Bourbon, which is also in Louisville, Kentucky. Today we're going to be talking about the seven bridges and the four bridges. The seven bridges is the marathon version of the four bridges. The four bridges, the full title of that one is the Desmond Doss Memorial Four Bridges Half Marathon. Um, Going a little bit out of character, I want to go a little bit more into that. Private First Class Desmond Doss received the Congressional Medal of Honor despite refusing to bear arms during World War II on religious grounds as a Seventh-day Adventist. Dodds volunteered and was ostracized by fellow soldiers for his pacifist stance, but went on to earn respect and admiration for his bravery, selflessness, and compassion after he risked his life without firing a single shot to save 75 men in the Battle of Okinawa. There's a movie based on him. It's the Hacksaw Ridge. I do not know how accurate that is. Um, so I don't want to say, one way or the other. I just know that it's based on his story. So that's a little bit out of character for me, but I feel that with this race and that man, it deserves a little bit special nod. But getting back to the normal program, we're going to be enjoying the Moon Pie Milk Stout from Naked River Brewery in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This beer is incredibly rich, smooth, creamy stout made is made with moon pies in collaboration with Moon Pie, the Moon Pie Company. If you ever had the moon pies, they're little chocolate. Typically, they're chocolate. It could be strawberry or banana cake with a marshmallow middle that you're actually supposed to microwave for 5 to 10 seconds. Uh, they are known as the working man's lunch, and the working and this beer is the working man's reward. This is a 64 IBU, 8.5% ABV, very delicious beer. Every time I'm in Chattanooga, I try to grab four packs, maybe just a little bit. Gotta stuff the fridge. Um, we're gonna go ahead and give this Moon Pie Stout a four. It's four medals, 4 out of 5 medals, and we're gonna kick back, relax, and talk to Gavin about his experience with the Four Bridges. Gavin, how did you first hear about Four Bridges?
So we actually stopped in Chattanooga on the way to Atlanta over 4th of July when we went there. And I've been through Chattanooga a few times, but my wife, Sarah, knew about it. So we stopped in Chattanooga on the way to and from Atlanta. So we did the aquarium and the kids center there with my 2-year-old. And so I think Sarah knew about it and we were just talking about it. And I think at the time we were planning on doing another race and that kind of fell apart. So, um, whereas just kind of looked at this one and it worked schedule wise with what we wanted to do. And we knew the city a little bit. Chattanooga's, if you haven't been there before, it's got a pretty nice little downtown area and a lot of good stuff for kids. Like I said, we did the aquarium and the kids center just going to and from Atlanta and over really well done. And just a city that, it's kind of easy to navigate. It's really pretty on the bridges. So just kind of drew our interest there.
Already, between between hearing about it, you finally register. Was the registration anything out of the normal, or was that kind of like a easy blow?
Yeah, I don't remember it being anything crazy. It's on race roster, which there's other races on there. I've done other ones on there before. It's probably a little less. I've used that one a little less than others, but yeah, I mean, the traditional race registering experience with all the potential add-ons and stuff like that. But I did find this race a little bit more affordable than a lot of races. I'll say that. Like, I think a lot of halves have drifted, north of $100 in a lot of ways. And I think this one I ended up paying around 80, and it's not like I signed up particularly early, so a little bit cheaper than a lot of races, which that's good.
Okay, yeah, that's $80 isn't too bad for a race. Yeah, like you said, the price is starting to creep up there a little bit. I don't know all the reasons, but they are.
For sure.
So Did you get a lot of emails for this race? Was you inundated just the right amount?
Yeah, I mean, not really, honestly. Like leading in, I think I only got a handful. Now, I think I was only registered about a month ahead of time, but it was about, a handful. There was one really detailed one, maybe about a week before the race, that kind of had most of what we needed on there as far as where to park and everything. The website's pretty good too, if I had the schedule and the course maps and all that. But I would say it was less communication than a lot of other races I've done, but it's still got everything we needed.
Yeah. I mean, when you sign up a month and a half out, you get the core messages, I guess, but you miss a lot of the early, reminders or order your race shirt, or not race shirt. That typically is involved included. Uh, Depending on the size of the race, they'll have like a race hoodie or whatever. You could pre-order that with some of the other races, but that's you get those emails if you sign up 6 months, 9 months in advance. So I guess with 6 weeks, you don't have that. You don't have the same marketing opportunities.
Yeah, I mean they did well. The weather was kind of iffy for this one, so that was part of the part of the issues with just leading in is that it was calling for really heavy rain, like really it was going to be pretty much there in the whole morning of the race or in the morning leading into. So they did send out a couple of notes about that and had some messages on Facebook just about different contingencies and stuff. So that was good. But I mean, when you've done enough of these races, and I don't get too hung up on how many emails they send. They sent out what we needed to know, so that
That
was good.
that's fair. Where How was the expo?
Yeah, it was on the smaller end. I mean, it was in I think it's called Coolidge Park. So there was a handful of booths set up, and it was outside, which was unique in a lot of ways. But um, there was a handful of different booths set up, and the packet pickup. I mean, it was definitely on the smaller end in that way. I think Fleet Feet was there selling stuff, and they were giving out free coffee, which was nice, like free little iced coffees. That was cool. I think it was a local
Nice.
coffee place. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but that was neat. And um, they had some stuff, giving away a little bitty stuff and things like that. It was the same place where I guess the finish area was in. So like right next to the start line, which was good. I did like that. It just kind of helps to visualize like where you're going the next day and all that. So, um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, and then like in that same park, there was actually what worked out really well for us because I was traveling with a 2-year-old. They had a carousel in the park that was I don't think it's always free, but it was free during this weekend. So like my 2-year-old got to ride the carousel quite a bit, and it was like right by it. She would have rode it probably 100 more times with her. They also had like an art festival going on in that park that weekend, so there was a lot going
Yeah.
on. That was all the day before, so it was a good area. The weather was good for the packet pickup, and then like I said, it was right next to the start line and the blue rhino statue that I think they tout pretty heli is right there, and um, so pretty easy to find, but just probably on the
Yeah.
smaller compared to other races.
Down, do you know or do you remember if they offered the VIP off package or whatever?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think they you could pick up your packet that morning of the race, which again is kind of rare anymore. But
Yeah.
I'm sure they had. I usually don't do the extra add-ons and all that, but I'm sure they had something.
I know when I did it, I was a pacer for it twice, and uh, so there's the expo area or that whole the festival area, the lawn, and
Yeah.
then there's the road that you come in. Well, you run out, and then that's where start finish line is. And then on the opposite side of that road, there's a building, like I don't know what to really call it, but I think they have theaters in there. But either way, um, the 2 years I paced it, we were allowed to go in there. The Pacers, or if you upgraded to a VIP, you were allowed to go in there, and they had uh, they had pastries and fruit and
Oh wow.
a little more beverages, and they had full flush toilets.
Yeah, I know the building you're talking about is because it is the theater, but because that's what I put in to do the lift that
Oh,
morning.
okay.
But yeah, I usually honestly halfway read that stuff because I'm not gonna pay for it. So
I understand that. That's that, especially when you're doing quite a bit of races. Also, when you have a 2 year old, an extra $40 or $50.
right.
Yeah. Um. So, but yeah, and I think they did offer race day pickup when I did it. So
Yeah, I think they did because I seem to remember. I mean, they had the little expo the day before, and they may even had it Friday before as well for a little bit. But I think they did have it to where you could get your bib that morning, which again, a lot of races don't do anymore. So, especially when you're traveling from out of town and stuff. I mean, that's that's good. I wish more races offered that and didn't charge you $30 extra to do it.
yeah. Now getting to the race. Now I think I picked up. You said something about Lyft.
Yeah, I got an Uber. I guess it was an Uber, but we stayed at an Airbnb like maybe 2 miles from the start, something like that, maybe a little under. And I debated driving that morning, but it was just better to leave the car with Sarah, and the Uber was pretty cheap. And honestly, like the parking situation probably wasn't going to be great. I mean, I think the meters are free in Chattanooga on Sunday, so I think you can find parking if you know the area. I'm sure it's a lot easier. I don't. So, um, but yeah, I just got a lift and got dropped off. So that made that logistic a little easier.
Okay. I remember the years I did it. The so Seven Bridges starts, I think, 30 minutes before Four Bridges,
Yeah.
and then there's a parking lot right there because there in the theater and all that. There's a parking lot right there that, but by the time the marathoners have all parked, then I've always wondered how the parking was for Four Bridges, but apparently I'm not going to find out.
I mean, it is well, and it was pouring raining that morning, so I think I would have had a hard time, to be honest. And like, because even like parking for the expo, we kind of parked. I'm not far away, but like we weren't like right next to it either. So I do think it would have been somewhat challenging, just not knowing the area. Like if you know the area, it's probably a lot easier, but not knowing it, not being local, it just, I'm not the greatest with navigation. Sarah's kind of our navigator in the family, so it just one less stressor for the $10 Uber ride was worth it to me.
Yeah. Then I mean, getting back there and yeah, you don't have to stress about it. You let somebody else take over, and then one you can get relatively close and just jump out of the car, and you don't have to worry about where you parked or yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's actually like this race was a little different for me because like I said, like the forecast was terrible, and actually ended up for the race ended up being a lot better than what they said it was going to be. Like they made it sound like it was going to rain just all morning really, so like there was no way it was going to miss. But it ended up for the actual race, I really didn't get rained on too much, which was good. But sitting in my Airbnb an hour before the race, it was pouring, like just pouring, and so I kind of made the decision that I was gonna wait out the storm and kind of see what it did because they did, and I'll give the or the Four Bridges and Sub Bridges races credit in this way. They gave runners the option because of the forecast. I guess I don't know if it was just because of the forecast or for any reason, but they gave people the option to defer their entry to next year. So like if you
Oh.
woke up and didn't want to run, you could say defer to 2026. And I thought about it, to be honest, if, so because I didn't want to just go be miserable running this race. Um, so I definitely thought about that, but then it was but the rain did let up. So like you said, like the marathon starts at 7:03, I think it was, and the half was 7:33. So about a half hour later. And, um, I left my Airbnb at about 7, knowing I probably wouldn't quite be able to start right on time. Uh, but it wasn't the end of the world. Like I got to the start area, like right as the race was starting, checked my bag and stretched a little bit and then got running. So I was maybe under 10 minutes behind what I should have been. But that was that's what made sense. I didn't really want to go out there and get drenched,
No.
before the race even started. So I could avoid it.
uh, I I had to look it up. That day it rained just short of 3/4 of an inch,
Yeah.
and
It
it all fell before 10 a.m.
it was, I mean,
Mm,
I don't know I think, like, again, going by like the hour by hour, it was supposed to start raining at like 4 a.m. or something like that. And it was supposed to go until 10 or 11. And it did end up, it wasn't quite as bad as they said it was going to be. It stopped.
yeah,
Well, I mean, really, honestly, like once I started running, I mean, it might have rained a little bit, but nothing that really impacted me. It was just like sitting there before the race. It was like, oh man, like this would not be fun to be out in.
yeah.
So it was worth it to me to maybe start a little later than uh, yeah, and stay dry. But and like I said, and I did consider the option of deferring. Like I'll give the race a lot of credit in that way because I don't think most races will do that to just give you the option to defer. I mean, they're just going to take your money. So definitely kudos to them in that way.
Yeah, that's a very nice courtesy that they didn't have to
For sure.
offer. Because I mean, especially if you were, yeah, if you started out at 7 and you're in there for hour and a half or so, and at the same time, I mean, we both understand how weather works. The weather, it might have hit the northern part of Chattanooga or the southern part of Chattanooga and just missed where you were. So like
Right.
if the rain would have moved 10 miles, you might have
Right.
been in it a lot longer than if,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not the type that wants to go be miserable for 2 hours, running. And so, I mean, it is a little harder when you're traveling for a race like that, but
yes,
because you don't want to, like, I mean, that's why we went to Chattanooga. Now we made it more of an event. We did other things while we were there, but the race was what drew us there. So it would have been hard to not run. I really wanted to run, but and they had talked about maybe delaying it. I guess if it had been lightning, which they were calling for lightning initially, like they may have delayed the race, but that didn't end up happening. I kind of thought that would happen, the night before. But so yeah, the weather definitely didn't help circumstances. It just kind of made it somewhat up in the air leading in. But it ended up, for the actual race, it ended up being pretty good. I'll say like the area, I guess, where like the packet pickup was in the park, and that where like kind of like the gear check was the next morning was just like drenched. Like you step in it, and it was just one of those rain, like you're like sinking into the ground basically. And so I mean, like you said, it rained a lot.
okay.
So that definitely didn't help.
So okay, so we get there. The race is pretty easy to. It's fairly easy to find. It's right beside the theater. It's right beside the Blue Rhino. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy to find the start and finish line, the start area. Um, they have plenty of porta potties for Mount Gray.
Oh yeah, there was a bunch actually. Yeah, probably more than races that are a lot bigger. So
Yes, I will say this race. Yeah, to my understanding, this race is put on by the Seventh Day Adventists. So, the way that a lot of races work is there's a race director, and then there's a charity, like a main group that the charity is benefiting, and then there's also like different charities or community organizations, which are charities, in a way, that are along the course and help at different aid stations, and that charity gets a check for having volunteers help out. And with this particular race, the Seventh Day Adventist, uh, it seems like the aid stations are very well stocked and supported. And yeah, like you said, it for such a small race, I remember, yeah, for such a small race. I mean, I've done Chicago, I've done Monumental, which is 15,000. I've done Air Force, which is a ridiculous number. I think 20,000, and it's put on by the Air Force or whatever. Um, this race is very um well made, stocked, maintained,
yeah,
supported.
yeah. I mean, I think there was on the half course there was 9 aid stations. And they all had water. Powerade. I mean, maybe not everyone had everything, but it was mostly water, Powerade. And what I did think was cool is I think Goo might have been a sponsor, but there was like almost every aid station had like the packets of Goo, which was
Oh
neat.
wow.
Yeah, usually, you might have one or two stops that have those, but they had them in, again, I don't want to say it was every single one, but probably at least half of the aid stations, they had
Okay.
they had packets of goo, so that was cool. Now the aid stations were kind of I'll say they were kind of on the smaller end, just like running, like there maybe only a handful of people working them or whatever. So just like navigating in and out of them was a little bit harder than other
Okay.
races, but they were always people working them and handing them out. They were doing everything they could, put it that way.
Yes.
And they had lots of stuff. So
Now with that age, and then from your memory, did most of the aid stations also have like one, two, three porta potties there as well, or
yeah, I mean, several of them did, and then because I guess a lot of the race was through parks and stuff and trails, like there were like signs pointing to bathrooms that are just there all the time.
yeah?
So I didn't stop at any, but you had options if you needed to.
I think I'd rather go 20 yards off course to go to a full flush
Sure.
than use a porta
Yeah.
potty that's right out the. I mean, it's 20, 30 yards. I'd rather just.
Mhm. I'm with you. Yeah, it's rare I've stopped during races for porta potties or anything, but
Yeah.
I'm with you in general. Like, certainly, like after races, I've done that. Like, I've walked to nearby businesses or something instead of going to porta potties. But, so yeah, I'm with you though. But yeah, I think there's plenty of options in that way.
Now, okay, so okay, with the name Four Bridges, I remember I kind of remember how the Seven Bridges works, but I don't know if the full if Four Bridges takes the same course. How is the course layout? Do you cross that first bridge because you start on I'm gonna call it the northern part of the river because you're right there at the river. Yeah, I'm gonna call the northern part just for simplicity. Do you I remember you run about maybe a half a mile and you start going across the river to the south. Is that the same for the seven or for the four?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, may not be 100% that sure on this, but I'm pretty sure like the full runs the whole half course pretty much. So like everything you run in the half, I think is in the full course for the most part, like at least the bridges. Um,
Okay.
I think so anyway. There might be a little bit of a spot somewhere that the full doesn't run, but I think I seem to remember seeing some marathon runners when I was running over those bridges, and certainly saw them later. So, um, and I'll say like I guess again because of the weather being what it was, like the bridges were pretty slick running on them. I mean, it was neat. Like again, Chattanooga does a really they did like I think it's a neat aspect to run over the water. I like running over water and stuff, and it was pretty. Um, it just kind of made it harder to run on those surfaces. Like I think the first bridge, I don't know how you describe it. It was like a metal surface almost in some ways. It was like I don't even know what it's called, but it was slick running on it just because it would rain so much. And then like one of the other bridges was wood, so it was kind of slick. You know,
Yes.
so, but yeah,
Uh,
they're cool. I mean, they do a good job of integrating them, and I'm sure the full, is going over three other bridges. So,
I remember I remember we went over I didn't remember the metal bridge, but I do remember you kind of run alongside a highway on the
yeah,
second bridge, which
yeah,
the cars are I mean, it's kind of early morning, but still, and
yeah,
there's cones, but like I'd rather run head on
right.
than the cars coming from behind.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I like the course as a whole. Like there was definitely parts of it that were I didn't love, and that was one of them. Like running down the highway, and there's been a couple other races I've had to do similar things, but and because like the highway was all open, obviously, and I think we were in the right two lanes or something like that, and the cars were coming. Now there wasn't a ton of traffic, like you said, so it wasn't like I didn't feel unsafe necessarily, but just kind of different. Like they're, when you're running on a highway, it's just like, oh, okay, like hope this is okay. But it was fine. I mean, it worked out fine. But there was a couple of parts of the course that were kind of like Oh, okay. But when you're trying to get 13, 26 miles in or whatever, it's hard to make it all fantastic either. So,
That is true. Now, so you go across the metal bridge, you come across the highway, so that's concrete. You cross back over a different bridge. I
mm,
can't remember where that one is. And then because the full we come across the highway, and then we make a right at the bottom, and then we kind of run behind the starting area for the race. And if you're fast enough, you can see the starters for the half. I'm not that fast, but
sure. Yeah, I think I mean, I think the first bit of the race is the same. I'm looking at the course maps now, and it looks pretty much the same for like that little corridor you're talking about.
yeah,
It just looks like the marathon goes further out than the half, which makes sense. But
I've done
most of the half course is on the full course. Yep.
okay. Yeah, there's somewhere but we end up. I remember I forget one of the gentlemen I ran with. Uh, he was from Florida, I believe, and he was counting the bridges. And there's seven big bridges, but then there's like pedestrian trail bridges. I think we ended up counting like 15 total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you run over. So there's a pedestrian bridge that I guess actually is they're either about to close it or it's closed right now in Chattanooga, but that was open for the race. I think that was the last bridge. They even
Yes,
count
that
that as a bridge. That was like the last bridge we ran over, and I think that's the last bridge for the marathon too. Because like I feel like the marathon split off from the half, and then it comes back to it. Because I started seeing the mile markers for the full towards the end of the race, so it must like run further out and then rejoin, if that makes sense.
it yeah it does. Um, and one of the problems that you have with races over the years, because the 2 years that I ran Seven Bridges, it had two different courses.
Okay.
And the first year I ran it, it ran along a boardwalk for like 3 miles, a wooden boardwalk. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. But if you had to push off, to push off, you would start to slip. So I kind of wondered how the faster runners, because I was pacing, I believe, 5:30 that year. I kind of wondered how the 3:30s or the fours, how they would do in that section.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, so again, just because of the weather, like this, so I'm usually, I kind of, I'm a lot of times I'm under like the 150 mark and a half. I'm usually in the mid 140s or so. The weather being what it was and just kind of some of the circumstances, I wasn't really pushing much. So this was one of my slower halves I've ever done. But I think it would have been hard to push this race in many ways just because a lot. Like there's a big part of the race where you run, it's like an out and back, I guess, for a part of the race where you're running out and other people are coming the other way, and there's not a lot of space. So like you're kind of like people are coming both ways, and you're kind of having to dagger in and out depending on who's coming the other way, and there were some pretty tight turns. Like I remember the turnaround specifically was real tight. Like I don't really know how I could have just like let loose, so to speak, or like really run fast. If that had been my intent, because it would have been a tough race to do that. And I've kind of read some other people saying that like locals don't necessarily try to PR in this race. I'm sure that's part of it. Just the course design makes it difficult in some ways. I wouldn't say it was a super hilly race. I wouldn't say it was flat, but it just yeah, it definitely like. And then again with the rain, like there was like giant puddles and some of the paths and stuff that you kind of had to go around. So I mean, there was definitely like a lot to kind of navigate around, and that made it difficult to like if you were trying to hit a certain time or something to it would have been hard.
Yes. Now I will say, so we that the last bridge you hit, that's I think they're, I don't know if they're resurfacing. I know they're doing some work. I just don't know what work they're doing. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's a beautiful bridge. I love it, especially when you're coming in at 5.5, 6 hours for the full. There's a lot more families along that bridge. I don't know if you had a lot of families. Well, if you start at 7:30, you're coming across at like 9. you're probably getting other recreational runners or people not
Yeah.
in the race.
Well, the pedestrian bridge was closed to it's closed to the public right now. So I didn't really experience that.
Oh,
So it
okay.
was, I don't really remember there being anyone else on it other than the runners. And it's probably because they couldn't be. Um,
Yeah,
and I remember Sarah mentioning that too, that like she wouldn't have been able to go on the bridge. So I don't know if that's open normally to I'm sure it is like open normally to the public if they normally would be out there during the race. But
with the
from my experience,
construction.
yeah, from my experience, I don't know at all what they're like. You said maybe they're resurfacing. I think it must be a pretty massive project because there was a lot of signs and people talking about it. But uh,
Huh,
yeah, but it there was just they only had it open for the runners basically.
okay. That was yeah. It was a hill. It was a beautiful course. I just I just regret certain aspects that you didn't get to. Um, did you go past the art museum? I believe it is.
Yeah, that was on there. I remember seeing that. You go by the aquarium. Like I said, I knew like the aquarium. If you've been there, you've seen it. Like it's kind of lit up in a special way that you can kind of notice it when you're running. Yeah, and I definitely like I try to when you're doing these races take in the views, and there were definitely some cool ones, just like running over the bridges and the leaves weren't really changing the way that I'd probably hoped they would have at this point in the year. So like running through the park, it was still pretty green. I think, even a couple of weeks from now, that would have been a lot prettier than what I saw. Um, but and then like I said, I mean, it was just the weather was it wasn't raining during the race, but it had rained a lot leading into, so it just made it it dampened some of that probably, but I mean Chattanooga itself is a pretty city. I mean, we did Lookout Mountain, Rock City the day before. So I mean, and that's very pretty. Up on Lookout Mountain they say you can see 7 different states at once, which is neat. Uh
Oh wow.
yeah, I don't know if you've ever been up there, but that's really cool. Uh and like just Chattanooga as a whole, like driving over the bridges at night and stuff. I mean, I really thought just as a whole, I think Chattanooga is kind of an underrated city in many ways. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about it, but I thought it's a clean, pretty safe city, and I feel like the race hits on that. So
Um, so you go out, you come back. It's kind of a it's kind of out and back in the middle there, but you do cross the four bridges. You see some sites. Unfortunately, I wish you would have had the better experience of the leaves changing colors and things of that nature, because that really that really is a it makes it a little bit it makes it a little bit better to because especially when you're out there, you know, some people they're struggling more so than others, and having more to look at changes your perception of pain.
sure.
Your yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like parts like I like running over water, so like running over the bridges and stuff. Like I was looking forward to that, and it was good. Um, the park, for the most part, you can't really see the river when you're in the park.
Yeah.
I think you can see it through, you can see it at times, but so, with it kind of mostly being green, it wasn't maybe necessarily as scenic as it could have been. Um, but overall, I mean, it's a pretty course, like you said. I mean, it's definitely, you can kind of get lost in the nature of it, and that always helps me to kind of forget what I'm doing.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. So you get back to the finish area. Now that race, that's a downhill finish, like for a block or so.
Yeah. So, Sarah said the same thing. She said it's going to be a downhill finish. And the last mile to me was the worst one. So overall with hills. And you're right. I think the last like maybe point one or so is pretty down, which is good. But like the, the ramp, I guess you call it a ramp getting on and off the walking bridge. I mean, that was pretty steep. And then there was another pretty steep part. I mean, I'd have to look back at like my watch elevation and all that, but I mean, I would imagine that was, if not the steepest mile, the one of them. And then I do think like you kind of make a turn at the end where you can see the finish and it's kind of downhill. So you're right, like it does finish downhill, but that's to me like it's a little misleading to say it finishes downhill because a lot of it you're going a lot of uphill to get to that, I guess.
That yeah. See, and yeah, that now okay. So you finally hit the downhill, and then you
Yeah.
come across you have the art expo going on, or the art fair, or the art.
Yeah. I don't know that the art fair was going on. Maybe they had to cancel because of the weather the day of the race. It was going on the day
Oh,
before for sure, but I don't like we walked in that area the next day, like the day of the race, and they weren't there. Um, so I don't know if it wasn't supposed to be there or if they just had to cancel it because it rained so much. But yeah, we were in the same area, like where the pack pickup was, and the start and finish is in the same spot. And I mean, it's a nice little area, and I wouldn't say it's the biggest after party or anything, but I think we got a free donut, or something else. It was a smoothie. It was like a little smoothie drink. So that was good. And we ended up going back to the carousel I mentioned earlier to take my daughter on the ride. So I mean, there's definitely like well, part of the problem was like it did start like pouring not long after I finished, so we didn't really linger around too much. But there's definitely like area around it that you can walk around and enjoy. We ended up going back to that area later, while the
yeah.
marathon was kind of finishing, and just kind of wandering around a little bit because it is pretty. Like it's right there on the river, and I did the traditional finish line photo, right there with the river in the background, and like I said, you got that carousel and there's some other elements of the park, and so I mean, there's definitely like kind of things right there to check out.
Okay. Now, well, I don't know if you know, and as of the recording right now, things are still being affected by the AWS servers being down. Amazon World something. Uh, but the servers for Amazon is messing up a lot of things right now as of this recording. Do you remember if they had free race day photos, or was it pay, or do you recall it all?
I think they're free because they mentioned that in the email they sent out about it that there was
Hmm,
photos taken and that you're tagged in them. I'm as unless that's just like, oh, you're tagged in them and they kind of like some other races where they show you them but you have to buy them to actually not get the watermarks on them or whatever. But
yeah.
I'd have to look to know for sure. And like I said, they're not actually available to me yet because of the outage. But I'm expecting them to be free, I guess, but I might be wrong.
And I'm trying to remember what I did, but I mean, I think I've ran, I don't know, 10 marathons since I've ran that marathon. I ran that last in 22.
Okay. Oh, so I'm
So,
looking at previous years, and it does look like they have like the watermarks, and they're like buy your photos, so they must not be free, unless that's
oh,
fake.
okay. Well,
So
shucks.
yeah, that's
That's
okay.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
I just did Mo Cowbell in St. Charles, Missouri, just north of St. Louis, for those unfamiliar. And they had free race photos. And sometimes with the smaller races, you're more likely to get those free photos.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of them are paid than not, but I appreciate when
Yeah.
the races do them for free. That's always nice.
And that's part of the reason why you should do marathons, because when you run marathons, there's more opportunities for the photographers to take your picture. So
Wow. Sure. If you're running twice as long, that makes sense. But then you also have to run twice as long. So, there's a trade-off there. But sure,
yeah.
right. You'll get more photos you know, when you do. So
And sometimes you get a bigger medal. But speaking of the medal, how was the medal for the four bridges?
yeah, I mean, I can't give it a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, it was pretty generic. I mean, it's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't say it's one. I wouldn't call it particularly unique or anything. But
Okay.
it's fine. I mean, I feel like I saw some other previous years ones that I felt like were better than the one I got, but the shirt too. I mean, it was fun. It's a shirt I'll wear at least occasionally. But yeah, I mean, I have other medals that I think are a lot neater than that one, but there's nothing wrong
Okay.
with it.
And I mean, sometimes with, I mean, you and I were talking. We've ran Derby, I believe 7, 8, 9 times. And some years the medals are very impressive, and some years it's like, well, this is a medal.
Right. Yeah, I
So
mean, you do enough of these races, like I don't get too hung up on the medals for the most part, to be honest. Like, I mean, I think some of them are neater than others, and like you said, they're like vary year by year, but in the same race. Like it's not so, you know, but it's this one I would say it's on the lower end of the medals I've gotten, but it's fine. Like there's nothing particularly wrong with it. It's just not necessarily unique either.
okay. So yeah, I don't even know where. I think mine are hanging on my wall. Well, basically behind me as in my Zoom meeting. But I don't even. I'd have to go look through all of them, and it would take way too long to try to find those medals. Um, would you? So what did you? Well, normally I'd ask what did you do to celebrate, but it sounds like you all went to the carousel.
Yeah, it is what we did. We went back to the Airbnb and I showered and whatnot, and we were all even coming back home that day, so we packed the car and everything, and then we took him. We walked back to the finish area and took a couple pictures, and then like you said, our big celebration was riding the free carousel with our daughter. So that was the celebration. So when you got kids, but there's not. I'll say this about. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a different city with a free carousel in the middle of the park. It was for a parent that was good. Like I said, my daughter would have rode it. I think she rode it 5 times the first day and 7 times the second day. So, and she probably would have rode it 15 more times. So, um, so I made her happy. So that makes me happy.
Yes, that's yeah. It gets it's fun.
Yeah.
Every
I
kid.
mean, I'll say this, like for people like traveling with kids, like I think Chattanooga is a good city to take families to. I found it very safe. Like, if you've never been there, the aquarium and the kids center there, they're both really well done. They have a zoo. The zoo's not the biggest zoo, but it's fun. I mean, it's a good zoo. I think we stumbled on like two different playgrounds just like walking around that were cool. So, there's a lot to do just like family wise. Like I've been to other cities that was like much harder to take a 2-year-old to, and this one was one of the easier ones in that way. So, it just, I definitely, I think Chattanooga, like I said, I think Chattanooga as a whole is a good city. I mean, I think it's kind of underrated. You don't really hear people talk about going there or doing things there, but it has a lot to offer, especially for a weekend or something like that. I mean, there's a lot to do.
There is a. I remember we went one year that we were there for something, probably a race. I don't know. They have a tow truck Hall of Fame museum.
Okay, I, I didn't see that. I wanted to. You were talking about your moon pie beer earlier. I love moon pies. I think they're delicious, and I wanted to. I meant to go over by that general store and to get a chance because it was a little bit further away than where we ended up eating. But that's where I guess the moon pie factory is there. So like that's cool. Like I didn't know that. I was there. Like, and if you like moon pies, like I don't. I think they're delicious. I don't think Sarah likes them much, but um,
Well, who likes Sarah anyway?
yeah,
Kind of feel like Ricky Bobby, and Big Red Gum. I feel like Big Red. Never mind. Uh, and then the Chattanooga Choo Choo is there.
yeah, yeah. They got a lot of trains, and then they got the minor league baseball team. So they're off season right now. They're actually building a brand new baseball stadium for the team
Oh,
that we
okay.
passed the construction of. So that was cool. I mean, that's cool. I think that'll we were kind of talking about that, like, oh, like this will be something to check out. Once it's built and they're there. The current stadium, I don't know if you see it much from the race, but if you're in downtown Chattanooga, you can usually see the current stadium because it's just like sitting up on a hill. And I don't know what they're going to do with that now that I guess the minor league team's not going to be there. But it's cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't like as a whole. Like I said, I have a lot of positive things to say about Chattanooga. I just wish the weather had been better for the race. But just is what it is.
Yeah.
Luck of the draw in that way.
I mean, we try to find, a race that's well organized, well planned out, well laid out. And then, I mean, you can control so much. You can try to control or whatever so much of the race, but the ultimate thing about our sport, our hobby, our activity, is that it's outdoors, and whatever it is, that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I'll get that race a lot of credit for giving people the option to defer because, like, I don't know that many races are going to give you that option. They'll just wake up and decide, I don't want to run. If you're local or something, I'm sure that, I probably would have considered that a lot more. But so, I think it is like locally produced. It seemed to be. So, you tend to, those are the kind of races I like doing that are kind of just more, it's not the big production companies that, have races throughout the country. It's, like a local team that's putting it on. I mean, those seem to be the better experiences to me.
They really are. They really are. Um, would you run this race again?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably like to see it like in a non-weather related situation, I guess, if that makes sense. I just think the experience I had probably wasn't the best foot forward for the race in many ways. I just think I probably would have enjoyed it more had I not had that hanging over my head leading into the race and then kind of had the full with like, plotting around it for the start and whatnot. But it's close. Like I live in Louisville, so like, it's a little under 5 hours to get there. So it's definitely like doable to get there. And I think the city as a whole has a lot to offer. So, if it made sense to do it again, yeah, I wouldn't not do it, put it that way. I mean, we tend to do different races for the most part, to get different experiences. But, if it made sense to go back there and do it again, yeah, I'd do it.
Okay. So the two questions I always ask that have nothing to do with this particular race is what shoes do you run in and what watch do you run
Yeah.
with?
So I run in usually it's like Asics gel. I think they're well. I think I usually where gel contains sevens, and now they might be up to eights. That I wait till they go on sale and buy a bunch of them, and then so um I don't think that those are the fanciest shoes or they're on the cheaper end, but they work well for me. I think the one time I did try to wear a different pair of shoes, I got injured, so I went back to them and haven't had any issues. Watch wise, it's a Garmin VO Active 4S, which again I don't think is yeah, I've had it for I think 5 years now. But I like it because it plays you can download Spotify playlists to it and obviously tracks your miles and all that and syncs with the Garmin app. So it does what I need it to do. I know there are watchers out there that do a lot more, but it plays music for me and tracks my miles. That's really what I need.
Yeah, and the one thing I try to get at with that question is because some people they get hung up too much on what shoes a particular person wears, and I wear the shoes that fit my feet. And I was running with my Phoenix 6X, and then the Phoenix 6X only has 64 colors, and the Garmin 965, the both of those are Garmin, by the way. The Garmin 965 has like 5,000 colors or something like that. Basically, it's full color and it's much more vivid, and it's a AMOLED display versus a OLED. Either way, the other one's more of a matte MIPS display, memory and pixel. The Phoenix 6X, I believe, is a memory and pixel with 64 colors, whereas the 965 is a full color display and it's AMOLED, which means it's more vivid, it's more pronounced. It chews up battery life a lot faster.
Mm.
Um, that was the main reason though that I switched to the 965 was that the map function, because I travel a bit and I like using the map function when I travel. The map looks better, When I look at my watch to look at what time it is, it looks a little better than the 6X looked, in my opinion. And I wanted it. But my son, he started golfing and he started using my 6X for golfing. But then we went out golfing the other day and the 965, which is a newer device, didn't have all the golf features that the 6X had.
Interesting. Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Just
mean,
depends on like what you're going to use it. I mean, like how you're going to use it. Like for me, it was important. Like I don't wear my watch usually, just like out and about. Like I really don't wear it to run or anything, something like that. And so, like to me, like I just needed something that I have Spotify and that I can download playlists to and listen to music and that I can track my miles. And it does that. The Garmin app. I'm sure most people, a lot of people use that. It loads all that to it, and if I want to look back and see like what I ran in different months or years or whatever, like all that history is pretty easy to find in the app, and
yeah,
it syncs fine, and I mean the battery life's held up well. I'm sure it'll stop at some point, but I mean
eventually.
I've got no complaints. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, and heck, the 6X, I used to have a active fit. I don't even know what the model when I bought it was brand new for $150 back in 2016. And I trained up until 3 weeks before my fastest marathon with that watch. So like my fastest marathon, I trained with the cheapest watch I've ever owned.
yeah. I mean,
So like, and if you don't go to wear it every day, all day, you know, I started wearing mine all day. Just I like the smartwatch features, but that's me, and you know,
yeah, I don't need to be that connected to everybody, um,
I
but
should
yeah,
be.
but yeah, I mean, I don't like, I think watches are good for like, when you're going on long runs to keep you honest. And so, how far you ran and, roughly what pace, but like, I mean, the watch is perfect too. Like there's times where I know it's not necessarily as accurate as I would like it to be. Just like tracking mileage and stuff. So, you know, you kind of take it with a grain of salt, right? I mean, so,
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm not the type to go spend a lot of money on something just to spend a lot of money on something. I mean, I just want something that works and is reliable and does what I need it to do. So that's what mine does.
okay. Well, I'm gonna remind everybody or mine, ask, beg. I don't know. I ain't begging yet. Um, like, subscribe, share, send it to a friend, send it to a foe, send it to a loved one. If you're trying to think of a different race to do a racecation, uh, send it to send it to somebody that, hey, send it to your brother, sister, brother's cousin, uncle, friend, grandpa. Hey, let's go to Chattanooga. There's a train ride you can do that has a dinner cart on it. So like, there's things to do for both you and the non-runner. So like, you know, share, like, subscribe, comment if you can. Appreciate all those things. Remember to do those things. Otherwise, the porta potties will have no toilet paper for you. That'll be your curse. So, is there
Seems
anything
pretty
you
mean.
want to? Well, I mean, so is not subscribing. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would recommend the race. Like I said, Chattanooga is a good city. I mean, I think that's my biggest takeaway, just like with the city as a whole. Like, you don't really hear people. At least I don't. I don't hear people talking about going to Chattanooga. It's definitely a place I would go back to, and um, if you're within driving distance of it, I mean, it's definitely like, it's a good city to go to. And it's like you were kind of saying, like my wife didn't run and my daughter Claire didn't run. And I guess like the whole, they had the half, but and the full, but they also have there's a 10K, a 5K and a kitty K. That we almost signed them up for the kitty K, but it's glad we didn't because it rained a lot during it. But so like even if there's like a smaller distance, like if somebody does a longer distance, somebody does a shorter distance, you could get away with that. So it's definitely, a good experience overall. And it's not like I've been to a lot bigger cities, but Chattanooga is not a hard city to navigate. Like it's pretty easy to get around. And, a race isn't, it's not a small, I mean, it's not a big race, but it's not a small race either. I mean, I think it was about 2,000 runners and a half. And, so it's, I don't know how many in the full and whatnot, but there's several thousand people out there at the end of the day. So, it's definitely a good experience overall. Just maybe, not as big of a city as some others, but still good.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. By the way, this is the same Gavin that got the shout out in the Kentucky Derby uh, episode that gave a tour to in Churchill Downs.
Yeah. I think she called me Colin or Cullen or something. Yeah.
It took her a minute to get around to. She got around to it.
That's
She got
fair.
around to
She
it.
only met me once, so I'll give it back.
Yeah. Okay. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking us on a tour through Chattanooga. I just want to remind everybody to run the race that you are in and remember that forward is a pace.